It's just a man parking his SUV in the lot of a small-town motel. Nothing out of the ordinary. The middle-aged man seems to be concerned with the appearance of his vehicle, taking extra care to polish it a bit here and there. He certainly doesn't seem to have a care in the world as he walks away. That's actually quite amazing, since the man, Daniel Printz of Bostic, North Carolina, had just brutally murdered an 80-year-old woman less than an hour before. No one who would have seen him walking down the street to another nearby parking lot would have any idea that a serial killer was casually moving among them, satisfied with his kill and enjoying a warm, sunny day in South Carolina. No one would have suspected that he was on his way to put that woman's body in a shallow grave in the mountains of North Carolina. This was at least his fourth kill. Thanks to some carelessness on his part, it would be his last. Come with us as we look into the diabolical case of serial killer Daniel Printz.
If you tell him to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely.
Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the loved ones of Edna Suttles and the other victims discovered in this devastating case. The date was August 27, 2021, in the small town of Travelers Rest near the border between North and South Carolina, a scenic rural area in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. This Greenville County, South Carolina location is a quiet, out-of-the-way place, and it made a perfect hunting ground for 59-year-old Daniel Printz. Printz, working as a handyman, had been employed by Edna Suttles to do some work on her home. A repair or two here or there, and a relationship between them developed, a friendship that brought Printz into her realm of trust. An 80-year-old retired businesswoman and the owner of A1 Freedom Bail Bonding, Edna was a fixture in the community, vibrant and active. She took care to check up on and assist a number of elderly people in her community as well. On this very morning, she was scheduled to sit with a homebound friend, a friend whose family was counting on her that day. Edna left her home that morning but never showed up at her intended destination.
Greenville County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
The thing is, a sitter was supposed to show up to stay with my mom today, and she's in her 80s, and she didn't show up. We've come to her house, and we can't get nobody to the door or anything. Her name is Edna Suttles. It's not like her. She shows up like clockwork. So something's wrong.
In almost all jurisdictions, there's an unspoken rule that a competent adult is generally not considered missing until they've been out of contact for at least 24 hours. Very recently, however, the Greenville County Sheriff's Office had decided to change that policy.
Initially, from a Sheriff's Office standpoint, our missing persons were reported by phone. We would take a report by phone. The Suttles case, we changed some things here, and the Suttles case was kind of in time with that, if you will, where we were going to respond to every missing person. Usually it was, there had to be some extenuating circumstances, some type of medical issue.
Members of the Sheriff's Office were dispatched to make a wellness check on Suttles, but could get no answer at the door of her home. After obtaining a warrant, they entered the property. Inside, they did not find her, any evidence of foul play, or any clues as to her whereabouts. Her vehicle was not at the residence. That vehicle, a champagne-colored Jeep Grand Cherokee, would prove to be the starting point of suspicions that something terrible may have befallen the woman.
Miss Suttles was pretty well known in the northern part of this county. She was a bail bonding agent. She was a tough lady, street smart, had a great reputation here in our area. She was certainly nobody's fool.
Edna was gone. The police put out alerts through all the local media. They described her vehicle, gave its license plate number, and warned that she could be in need of immediate medical attention. They could not have known that Edna had already been killed and taken across a nearby state line It was 7 days before the Jeep was found by an officer of a local police department on September 3rd in the parking lot of the Best Western Hotel in the town of Travelers Rest. The Jeep had been backed into a parking space, concealing the license plate from anyone just driving through the lot. After determining that Edna had not checked into the hotel, members of the Greenville County Sheriff's Office scanned the hotel's security footage for the day of the disappearance. They found what they were looking for: footage of the Jeep being driven into the parking lot, and the person who got out was definitely not Edna Suttles. A man got out of the car and then began to wipe it down, paying particular attention to the inside of the front seat passenger's door and then the door frame and quarter panels. He left and then came back quickly to give it one more wipe down, and then he walked away, leaving the property. Any number of missing persons cases turn out to have nothing sinister about them. Some are just a person taking a short trip without telling anyone. Sometimes it can come from a mental health crisis. Sometimes just a romantic rendezvous that ran a little long. At this moment, though, investigators realized that any pretense of Suttles willfully being out of touch with those that she knew was probably gone. This missing persons case had taken a serious and unsettling turn. Investigators now had to determine who the mysterious man was and what happened prior to the 1:46 p.m. timestamp on the security video. There were hours still unaccounted for from that morning when Suttles presumably left her home to visit and sit with a friend. In this day and age, security cameras are nearly everywhere, and investigators began searching for the pieces of the puzzle that was unfolding before them. Now, with a date and time to work backwards from, it was a matter of finding the footage and canvassing locations in the small town until they could pick up a trail. Working diligently, law enforcement was able to piece together video from around the area that gave a timeline for the day's events. At 9:22 a.m. on the morning of August 27, 2021, a security camera video shows a Chevrolet Cruze pull into the parking lot at a Food Lion supermarket in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Just 8 minutes later, at 9:30 a.m., Edna Suttles drives away from her home in her champagne-colored Jeep Grand Cherokee. Security camera footage from a nearby antique store showed the time of departure and initial direction of travel. At 9:38 a.m., a man matching the appearance of the individual spotted leaving her Jeep at the Best Western purchases a pack of strawberry yogurt cups at Food Lion. The man uses the store rewards card, and investigators now had his name, identifying him as Daniel Printz. A minute later, Edna Suttles pulls into the grocery store parking lot and parks her vehicle near Prince's. Footage shows Printz holding a grocery bag and gesturing to Suttles. He then goes to his own car and retrieves a small bag. He gets into the front passenger seat of Suttles' Jeep. Minutes later, the Jeep leaves the parking lot with the pair inside. 4 hours pass before there was any more video evidence. Then, at 1:43 p.m., Suttles' Jeep is seen driving away from her residence back in the direction of the Food Lion supermarket. Minutes later, at 2:02 p.m., the Jeep pulls into a different part of the parking lot than before. Printz is shown exiting the Jeep from the driver's side door and walking across the parking lot to the Chevy Cruze he had arrived in. Printz then moves his Cruze alongside of the Jeep in the parking lot, front passenger door to front passenger door. He gets out and moves something from one vehicle to the other. A closer analysis shows that it is a person with the starkly blonde hair of Suttles. Printz then drives Suttles' Jeep away, and the blonde-haired person is left unmoving inside of Printz's car. 5 minutes later, Printz parks the car at the Best Western parking lot, wipes it down, and walks back in the direction of the Food Lion parking lot. At 2:14 p.m., Printz gets back into his Chevy Cruze with the unmoving Suttles and drives away. The trail of video evidence goes cold from there, but Printz's purchase led right to his door. The rewards card information provided an address in Bostic, North Carolina, about 70 miles away in the rural area of Rutherford County, North Carolina. So, who was this man, Daniel Glenn Printz? What connection could he have with Edna, and how did he come to meet with her on that fateful day? A native of Michigan, Printz had moved to the North Carolina mountains a few years before, making his home in one of the many hollers in Rutherford County. It's a friendly place, but one where a person who might want privacy is apt to find plenty of it. Printz and his wife, KK, settled in and he began working as a handyman, often for elderly single or widowed ladies. He had a knack for the work and also for developing relationship with those women, gaining their trust and befriending them. Printz, however, harbored a troubled past, one that he didn't bring up. As a youth, he had joined the military to get away from a life that was leading him down the wrong path. The stint in the military was short-lived, as was his avoidance of a life of crime. His criminal record showed charges of assault and battery as well as firearms violations. Most disturbing was his conviction in Michigan in 1997 for kidnapping a woman. He was sentenced to 13 to 30 years in prison for the crime and served 12 years of that sentence before being paroled. His parole was terminated 2 years later, and he moved out of the state not long after that before ending up in North Carolina. Detectives now had not just videos and a timeline, but they had the name of a man with a history of kidnapping. Quickly, the Greenville County Sheriff's Department contacted their counterparts in the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department just across the state line. Probable cause for auto theft had been established at the very least, and a warrant to arrest Printz and search his property was quickly granted. The Rutherford County Sheriff was more than willing to assist in serving that warrant. Printz surrendered with remarkable calm to the large number of heavily armed officers who had arrived at his property.
Totally cooperating, just relax. Can I do anything? Oh my God, stand up in the feet. Yeah. Sir, I would be very cooperative. You sure that goes? So.
Printz was quickly taken into custody and on to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department, where he was initially interviewed. It was obvious from the beginning that Printz wanted to run the interview and control the narrative. He was arrogant and seemed unfazed by what was happening, so investigators let him talk.
I told you that August 27th, 2021. What day was it? It was Friday. Okay. What's your typical Fridays like? Some Fridays I go do jobs, some Fridays I stay home, some Fridays I go look at jobs. I do that sometimes. Days run together for me because I don't have a set schedule. Fair enough. As the jobs come, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so specifically the 27th. Mm-hmm. What, 2 weeks ago, do you remember where you were at? Not specifically. Where do you think you were at? I've been going all over the place. I've been back and forth to Charlotte. I've been down to South Carolina. Like, where's your jobs in South Carolina taking you? Actually, I was down to Travelers Rest, but I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday. I know I've been there earlier that week. Okay. But you don't remember which day specifically? No, it was either Thursday or Friday. What kind of job were you working on? I wasn't. You wasn't? I wasn't. This lady had talked to me several times. I've been down to her house 2 or 3 times. We kind of got to be friends. This woman has so many damn problems, mostly her daughter. Yeah. And what she did is she had me looking at ductwork that she wanted done because somebody had done ductwork for her and she was suing them because they didn't do all the ductwork or something. She would call me and have me come down there. And she was constantly having problems. She said she needed to have money at one point in time to help her daughter because her daughter was in jail. Then she needed money another time because, what was it the next time? She was hiring a private investigator because her son-in-law she talked to me all kinds of stuff about it. We got to be pretty good friends about stuff like that. But she kept seeming like she was blowing me off when I actually doing any work for her. She was going to have a guy come out and wash her house, and I said, well, if I'm coming down here to look at other stuff, and I got a power washer, I can wash your house, because it came out for eaves for a couple $100. She was going to have me do it. Paid my power washer. Went down there. Never did the work. Because I don't have the money right now. I gotta sell a bunch of jewelry. I gotta sell a bunch of stuff to go ahead and get more money for a private investigator. Then she wanted a different private investigator because she didn't like the one she had. So it's like one excuse after the other.
How'd you meet her initially?
Years ago, and it was somebody giving me her name or number, or my name and number. I get passed around a lot.
Okay.
So it was a years ago thing.
That's pretty awesome. Your name made all the way down to Traveler's Rest in South Carolina. That's good reputation.
Yeah.
Solid work. Alright, so
Why are we...
what you're telling us is that's not you on the 27th? Food line parking lot, Traveler's Rest? That's not you?
That's me. Where's that?
Food line, August 27th, 2021, 9:23.
Okay.
22 seconds. Ringing a bell?
Yep. Yeah, I went down to Food Alliance.
Yeah. So what are you doing down there that day?
She wanted me to look at some stuff in her house,
Okay.
and she picked me up at Food Lion because she wanted me with her when she was gonna go meet some guy for private investigator.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about that.
She wanted me to meet her down there.
Okay.
She was nervous because she says, I'm not sure I trust this guy. And she knows I've been in the military. And she says, will you meet me? And I go, yeah. And I said, where do you want to meet? She says, well, he's been talking to me. I guess I'm supposed to meet him at a restaurant. And I'm supposed to meet him down near Food Lion. So I went down to Food Lion and she met me. And he didn't show up where we went to next. And she had been trying to get a hold of him. And we went to her house for about 2 hours. And then we went back to Food Lion. And it just...
She just dropped you off and you went home and you just noticed something about PI?
Well, she wanted me to see if this guy was going to meet her where he was supposed to meet her.
Do you know where?
There was a hotel lobby that he had finally said, meet me at the hotel.
Okay.
She said, drive up there and see if he's there. And I drove up there, and things were starting to sound really squirrely to me. And then she finally said, just drop me off at home. And if you drop me off at home, my daughter will pick me up. And I said, because I got to get going. I can't be doing this all day.
So that's you all coming down 25, you and her together? Back towards the hotel?
It could be.
Because that's her car, that's about 13:45 on the 27th.
Okay.
So you're with her there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not saying yeah. I'm just saying that could be.
Yeah, here's a different angle, but I mean, we've watched this car. Right?
Okay.
Here's y'all in the hotel parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh look. There's y'all backing in.
Yeah.
About different copies of it. Backing in.
Yeah.
Oh look. You get out. Nobody else gets out.
I told you that.
You're walking around the car.
Yeah.
You wipe the entire car down.
Because I was worried.
You were worried. There's you walking across the parking lot in front of Little Caesars. And there's you getting back into your car and driving away.
Oh, she's with me.
Look, man. We need to know that. Listen, Dan. Okay? You are a good dude. I honestly do believe that you screwed up years and years ago.
Okay.
And now...
Can I look at these?
What?
I just want to look at these. What we're talking about.
Let's have a seriously. You need to hear this, man. Okay? You're not a bad guy. Right? Nobody is saying that you're some evil, twisted dude. Okay? Where's your family is desperately looking for her.
She's missing right now.
Yes, Dan, where is her?
I don't have a clue. I dropped her off at her house.
Dan?
car, mine or hers?
Dan, stop playing games.
When I got, okay, I can help you here. Okay, give me a second. You gotta let me answer the questions when they're asked. When I dropped her vehicle off looking for the guy, she said she wanted me to take her and drive around in my vehicle. So I left her vehicle. I went down to Food Lion and she was in my vehicle with me. And I dropped her off at home.
Watch the video. She is not.
The car sits there.
It sits there, man.
No, that ain't her car. My car. I dropped her off with my car.
You did not drop anyone off, man.
I picked her back up. She sat in my car at Food Lion and I went back and got her.
You did not. When are you trying to say? Please explain. Explain yourself. Please explain at which point that we must have missed in the video that you dropped her off. Why that your vehicle never went back to her house. We have your vehicle, that silver car, going straight up 25 and not stopping at her house.
That's not true.
It is true.
I stopped at her house.
What's your wife gonna think about this?
Well, my wife would be very upset if I had done something, but I didn't, and I don't know where Edna is.
I think you do, Dan.
No. I don't know where Edna is. No, I don't.
Dan.
Let's go back to why you wiped the car down. What you said you were worried about what?
The only thing I did was because I knew I'd been in and out of her car all the time with her. I'm like, there is no way in hell I'm going to just leave this thing here. Because she's got somebody that's after her.
It's not making sense. I mean, you're the last person to be in a vehicle with wiped out of a lady that's missing.
That sounds really fucked up.
It does. That's why we're here. But it's fucked up as it sounds. We're having to do it right. We're going to do it right. But we got guys down there now that are home in about where we think she might be.
His story rambled, and it didn't really add up, but the holes weren't big enough to catch him just yet. As the interrogation went on, deputies were still at work searching his property. The officers there found a formidable arsenal, including 2 AR-15 variants and up to 20 handguns, plus a large stockpile of ammunition. The serial numbers on both the AR-15s had been removed. Chapter 44 of Title 18 of the United States Federal Code bans convicted felons from owning firearms, and here he was with many of them in his possession. The removal of serial numbers is also illegal, building even more trouble for the man. The firearms violations immediately upgraded this investigation to the federal level, meaning that Printz could be held longer as the investigation continued. As the search of Printz's house continued, more damning evidence turned up, but not evidence dealing directly with the disappearance of Edna Suttles. This evidence would end up bringing down a serial killer who had lived unnoticed by the surrounding community for years and whose crimes were unknown even to the wife he shared his home with. Deputies discovered among his possessions the driver's license and passport of Nancy Rigo, age 66, a woman from nearby Charlotte, North Carolina. Rigo, a widow, had been missing since 2017 and had only made sporadic email and text contacts with her family members since that time. Rigo, or the person who may have been posing as her online, always refused to meet directly with family members when asked. The same family members would verify that Rigo and Printz were supposed to be in a relationship during this time. Her wallet was also found among his possessions, along with financial records that indicated Printz's address was now hers. Printz was also found to have Rigo's bank card in his wallet. It's not hard to see the possibility that Rigo was dead and that Printz had been using her money rose to the suspicions of law enforcement. A separate search warrant had been issued now to look for additional information on Rigo while the search for Suttles continued. The search allowed for the seizure of the aforementioned items, plus a purse that had belonged to Rigo's mother, Dolores Sellers Gore, who had passed away in 2017 from what had been called natural causes at the time. Prescription bottles with Rigo's name on them were also found, ones for cyclobenzaprine, tramadol, and lorazepam, all filled in 2017. A black bag was found with more sinister contents. That bag contained zip ties, a taser device, lubricant, and crushed pills in a bag labeled Ativan, the brand name for lorazepam, a strong sedative that can be used to slow breathing and even cause death when combined with alcohol or some other substances. In custody, Printz was playing for time and maintaining his innocence when it came to Suttle's disappearance. On October 9th, as Printz sat in jail, his time ran out. Printz's wife decided it was time to leave and began efforts to put the home and surrounding property on the market. She enlisted a couple of friends to help with cleaning up the property and wrangling together a few chickens and other domesticated birds that were living on the property. One of those friends, while walking along the outer edges of the property, spied a large white bee box deep in the woods at the very corner of the land. KK Printz had been unaware of its existence and the contents that her friend found within. She quickly called law enforcement to search the box. After obtaining another search warrant, deputies from the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department found Suttle's purse, Jeep keys, rope, zip ties, and a variety of other small items belonging to her. A single opened cup of yogurt of the same type and flavor that Printz had purchased on that fateful day was also inside the box. Nearby was a vehicle's back floorboard panel, a black plastic bag, and a tarp. The floor panel would match one missing in Printz's other vehicle, a vehicle that had been taken in for repairs right after Suttle's disappearance. The repair shop verified that among the repairs was a request to replace that cargo compartment panel matching the one that was found in the woods. The trash bag also found at the scene included some personal items possibly belonging to Suttle's, such as jewelry, a bracelet, and a pair of shoes. The items were sent off for testing to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division's Forensic Services Laboratory, and the yogurt container came back showing signs that drugs had been mixed with the yogurt. Those traces of drugs included cyclobenzaprine, tramadol, and lorazepam, matching the same pill bottles of Nancy Rigo that were found in Printz's home. Realizing that a piece of linchpin evidence had been found, law enforcement brought in a cadaver dog to search the property on October the 10th. While the dog could not find Suttle's body at the site, it did alert officers that it detected the scent of human remains at the same location where the panel, trash bag, and tarp had been found. The body had not been located, but officers moved with a certainty that they had evidence of Suttle's murder. Sitting in jail, Printz so far held fast to his story through 2 interviews. He had admitted to knowing Suttle's and having to come to Travelers Rest to visit her a number of times before. He first maintained that on the day of her disappearance, he had met up with her, driven back with her to her home to discuss some matters about a private investigator that had been hired to look into her daughter's upcoming divorce. He then returned to the Best Western parking lot alone in her Jeep to retrieve his own vehicle and go home. He explained that he wiped down the vehicle to keep himself out of the private investigator's efforts. He stood pat on this explanation, thinking no connections had been found that would upend his story. Now, however, armed with new evidence, law enforcement agents began a third custodial interview with the man. It became quickly evident that Printz knew he was caught, and he moved quickly to control the narrative and as much of the outcome as he could.
There are things that have to happen, and there are things that are going to happen. And I'm a realist, and I have acceptance of this. I would like a little bit of control and power. If you tell them to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely.
For almost an hour, Printz confessed to law enforcement, stating that he needed to fully disclose his sins. He said that he knew he was looking at life imprisonment at best, and he quickly made a deal to ensure that he would not see the death penalty handed down to him. As part of the deal, he wanted to inform them of things that were not on law enforcement's radar, and that he would come clean when his attorney was present. Most importantly, he told the officers where they could find Suttle's body. In May of 2022, Printz led law enforcement officers to a piece of ground on a nearby property where they found her body buried but still identifiable. Still, in the custodial interview, he went on to explain that he had been involved in the deaths of Dolores Sellers, Nancy Rigo, and Lee Goodman. He had confessed to multiple murders. A serial killer had been uncovered. In the matter of the deaths of Dolores Sellers and Nancy Rigo, he claimed that he had hypothetically assisted euthanizing the elderly Sellers, hinting that Rigo had been a part of the process. He intimated that Rigo later was bothered greatly by what had happened and had threatened to tell the police. Rigo then became his next victim. He disposed of her body, did not tell anyone, and used a power of attorney that she had given him to have her Social Security checks routed to his residence. Sellers' death, originally attributed to natural causes, was reinvestigated and then declared a homicide. The third victim, Lee Goodman, was originally from Florida and had disappeared in the time between the deaths of Rigo and Suttles. Printz claimed that Goodman had attempted to rob him, but that it did not work out well, and her body was disposed of in a rural area after he had cleaned up the incident. No evidence of a robbery was ever found. Printz avoided trial and was sentenced to life imprisonment.
We certainly want to thank y'all for joining us today as we announce an arrest and subsequent plea deal has been reached in connection with the disappearance and death of Edna Suttles. She went missing from Greenwood County on August 27th of 2021. This investigation uncovered the man responsible, a man who has now been identified as a serial killer residing in Bostic, North Carolina, 59-year-old Daniel Glenn Printz.
He is serving his term with no chance at parole at the United States Penitentiary, Hazleton, located in Bruce Mills, West Virginia, a maximum security prison. It is known by its inmates as Misery Mountain, an apt destination for such a man. While Daniel Printz will continue to live out his remaining days, his actions devastated families and communities. Our hearts go out to the victims of the crime, knowing that each of them left behind loving families and friends who, up until now, had no answers as to what had happened to their loved ones. Still, there is a question. Did Daniel Printz confess to all of his sins, or just a handful of them? Could there be other victims left behind in places he lived before he got to Bostic, North Carolina, and was eventually caught? Until he decides to say otherwise, we have to live with the hope that his trail of terror began and ended with these 4 unfortunate women. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. Did you know that less than half of the people who view our videos are subscribed? It's easy and free. Also, hit that notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.